Hey guys, welcome back. Again, we're here for Wednesday night worship and the Word. If you were with us last week, remember, started a very important conversation with my very good friend Orlando here, and we're here this week to finish that conversation. If you didn't catch last week, or if you haven't caught the weeks prior, we've been having very, very needed discussions trying to address the problem of racism in our country, trying to address what is a centuries old issue. And so we're going to go ahead and dig right back in. I'm going to pray for us real quick, and we'll finish up our conversation. Father God, I thank you for Orlando and for his heart and his desire to help me understand and to help all of us understand, Father, and just open up our hearts and minds as we continue this very important conversation. Let your Spirit guide us to real change, real heart change, real systematic change. May we really, really see equality and see each other as just simply children of Christ, as we should. Father, we love and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. How has the angry black man or woman stereotype affected how you interact with others or affected your interactions with others?
Me personally, it's the effect for me was different than maybe some others, because again, I've always been of small stature, right? So
Right.
I've never been a big guy. So because of that, I saw how those that felt some type of way because I was black, how they, for instance, when I lived in North Webster, it was around, I had a buddy. He was cool, whatever. But some of his buddies, yeah, they, I don't know if they were really racist or if they just like saying stuff, but because of my small stature, they felt that they could say whatever they wanted around me because what am I gonna do, right? Again, if I was 6'7", 300 pounds, it's different. And whatever I would have done, it would have came across as though, I'm being defensive or whatever, So it kind of played in my favor a little bit.
Sure.
But at the same time, I got to watch and see how they acted around other people and just thought, wow, if I were slightly bigger and even at a smaller stature, I guess if I would have went around angry. But see, I understood though, again, my dad, how he was talking to me, I understood, I knew getting into a fight at Wall C was not gonna work out for me at all. Oh my, yeah, I had enough common sense.
All those big old country boys.
I had enough common sense to know I'm gonna just have to let that ride.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, one, I'm not gonna change their minds or opinions, and there's no point. So for me personally, I haven't had to deal with the angry black man stereotype.
Yeah. Okay.
Very much.
Sure. Do you ever recall your dad talking about anything like that? Did your dad ever have to fight, to speak?
My dad, when he was younger, he was angry. Angry is not the right word. He was quick to correct you. That's what my dad was.
Nice.
My dad told me back then, everybody carried a knife around on them back then. A lot of people carried pistols around on them back then or whatever. But yeah, my dad was very quick to, if you said something out the way to him, he was very quick to correct you.
Mm-hmm.
But time has changed with him. You know what I mean? He quickly was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to do things differently. So because again, that mentality and that mindset, well, as a black man back then, specifically, would get you killed real quick.
Oh, sure.
Real quick.
Sure.
And nobody would have thought anything about it, right? And really, the only difference between now and then, again, there's more cameras, and I think in general, there's more folks that more good folks than there are bad. It's just unfortunately we see the bad. The bad stands out. Kind of like with anything. If you've got a group of 20 kids and everybody's being good except for Johnny, and Johnny keeps talking. That's all you can see, right? You don't see the other 19 that's doing exactly what you're supposed to do. So that's kind of how one of the ways I kind of look at it. I try to remember it. It's like, that's why I felt compassion for our officers out there, because I'm like, they ain't do it. You know what I mean? I know people that have had negative experiences with some of our officers, but again, that was white and black. So, I hate to lump everybody together. It's just
that's important for all of us to remember. We talked about earlier about how so much of this just starts locally and starts within the grasp that you and I have. We're only effective from here to here, and when we start reaching way out here, we can tend to lose that effectiveness.
Definitely.
That said, I want to shift into where we kind of start talking about the change, right? The change that's needed, and we've talked about in the past several weeks that this is a heart change that we need to see in people within our communities and stuff right now, and I spent a pretty fair amount of time in our first week talking about that starts with Jesus, the real answer, the real foundation for this conversation needs to start there, because when we continually to shove down people's throats that they're here by chance, that there's no moral absolute truth or moral absolute justice, when there's no real purpose, they're going to act. We're all going to act accordingly. And so that said, addressing heart, because there's heart issues that need addressed, but then there's actual fundamental pen to paper, so to speak, issues that need addressed, right? And I'm no expert on that, and I know you're no expert on that, and there's people far more qualified than you or I to start figuring out how to do some of these things. But outside of the how to do it, what should we be striving for? Do you feel like, what are the things that you and the Black community see as paths to the true change that we need to experience?
I think to start with that particular question, what paths the Black community, I think we have to be careful when we ask questions like that, because again, my experience can vary. My experience isn't my dad's experience, right? So there's people in the Black community who their experience with racism is so much more, so how they feel is so much more heightened, right?
Of course, yeah.
So instead of asking what the Black community feels, because again, I know Black people that think all white people are racist. I know Black people that think all Republicans are racist.
Right.
I know people that anybody that supports anything that they don't believe, they feel like a racist. So you can't, and I'm not one of those that just lumps everybody like that. So instead of asking that, we say, well, for me and my close folks that I talk to, my family, it's funny because especially when you broaden it out to just your family, that even gets crazy, because as we know, you can be like, wow, I didn't know you felt like that. I grew up with you. I didn't know you felt like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's how we get back to just bringing it back home, like local. How do we take care of home? Racism is a learned thing. Kids, you see kids all day long. They'll go out there. You put a bunch of kids and just put them in the playground. Guaranteed, hide and go seek don't be going on. Freeze tag don't be going on. They don't care. But it's that learned pattern. So how do we fix it? What changes need to happen? Number one, the people, it has to start at home. We have to teach better to do better. If we continue to teach hate, if say this white person who's racist, if he teaches his child to hate, and then this black person over there knows that father or that mother, so this black person teaches their kid, hey, them white people over there, they gonna hate you just because. Okay, let's shift things a little bit. There are people out there that's going to hate you just because. Black people in general, racism's not going anywhere. Like it's gonna continue. Like it's not gonna end. You're not gonna end racism because that's just you. People, we're human.
Right.
People they have their prejudices. That's gonna happen. What we want, what I want, the people that I talk to, is just to be looked at as equal, looked at fairly. When you look at, that's why a lot of black people, when we see the Confederate flag, it stirs up stuff in us, right? And I know people say, well, you know, it was a heritage and it was a history and all that, and I understand that and I get it. I recently read a thing about the Confederate flag and what it originally stood for with the stripes and the colors and all that, and I can agree that is what it was, what stood for when they had it out. But in that, it was talking about life being equal for all. Now, the problem that black people have with that is that when it was written, who was all? Who exactly were we talking about, right? Because were we talking about, you know, the white men that created it and their families, or, you know, the white men that created it and everybody in the South, everybody, white, black, everybody in the South? I don't believe that it was written for everybody. I believe it was written for them and who they felt that was equal to them.
All is who we choose all to be.
Right. Black people, especially in the South, back then, were far from we weren't nowhere near equal. How dare you compare yourself? You know what I mean? So now it's like, all right, you fly the flag. Are you saying that you agree with that you want everybody to be equal except for who you don't feel you're equal to?
Right.
Or don't feel that is equal to you? Or are you just, because you're from the South and you just, that life, that, because you got the Southern drawl, just the way of living down South is different from up north, like in New York. It's a whole different lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're holding on to? Because those are two completely different things. And if so, I think that conversation needs to happen, because I know a whole lot of folks, as soon as we see the Confederate flag, we think racism, but it may not necessarily be, because there was a whole lot of white people that marched with Dr. King. There was a whole lot of white folks out, sure, in the southern states that were against racism. Does that mean that, if they had a Confederate flag in their yard that they stood, that now that negated that? I don't think so. Right. But again, it's one of those things where if you see something, you lump everybody together, then you're going to continue the hate. It's when you got to break it down. All right, let's have individual conversations. All right, so you're saying that you didn't stand for the racism, but you were proud of that life, the southern, just that southern. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because in the South, even now, everything's much more laid back in the South. Like it was funny. A comedian, probably Dave Chappelle. They were saying, and this was in the 90s. They said it was like it was him. He said, in the North, people are they're very in the closet with their hate and racism. Like they don't want you to know that they're racist. In the South, hey, they'll tell, hey, morning, You know what I mean? Like it's one of those where it's just more laid back. Everything's cool, and I can appreciate that. I'm like, man, that's ain't nobody uptight. Everybody all just, so that's cool. But when you lump it all together, like, oh, well, you can't like that and this, that's not right too. So we have to really pay attention to what the cause is. Is the cause the flag? No, the cause isn't the flag. The cause is wanting to be treated equally and seen as equal. Because if you don't see us as equal, then we're always going to be fighting for scraps at the table. That's how the whole Black Lives Matter thing came about. And then people said, well, all lives matter. Like, we get that. A great analogy for that was saying, so like if we're all at a table, you and I are at a table for dinner, and every evening we get our plate of food, you get your plate, and I might get a bone or two or whatever. Well, I matter too. How come I don't get food? And you say, well, I matter too, but you got your plate. You see what I'm saying? Like you're getting yours. They're not holding anything from you. But over here, I have to work to get that. Where you get to enjoy your food. And that individual thing is a huge conversation that we don't have time to get into, but it's about understanding. It's about listening. It's about understanding. If you can hear someone say, I'm hurting, this is why I'm hurting, and your first reaction is a defensive one, or you deflect it to something else. We do that all the time. White or black, we do this all the time. Look at in politics, Republican, Democrat, do it all the time.
Right.
Every 4 years, whoever's in office, let's say, so Trump's in office now. If a Democrat says, "Oh, look at what Trump said now," and then you can have a Republican go, "Well, but Obama did," and then vice versa. When Obama was in office and a Republican said something, a Democrat go, "Well, Bush, he wouldn't." It was like, so you completely ignored how you felt and what the issue you had was. Yes. You deflected it because of how you feel.
Right.
Again, holding you to a standard that I think you should be instead of valuing how you feel. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah, based on the conversations I'm having and what I'm reading, like the biggest crux is everybody, or not everybody, but so many people say, let's sit, let's talk, let's figure this out. But no one's willing to put those presuppositions aside, and so it becomes, you say what's on your heart, and my response begins with, well, yeah, but...
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
Well, yeah, but what about this over here?
Uh-huh.
And then that's where every week I've been trying to just stress that, like, this is very simple, guys. We need to have discussions with real people about their real feelings that come from very real reasons and get to the foundational bricks of those feelings. Otherwise, we're never going to, I don't feel like we'll ever really get anywhere. And if we're not willing to just sit and shut up and listen, we're not going to know.
It brings up a point. Something that, so, and it's crazy how times change too. And so in the 80s, when I was in Chicago, police officers used to walk the beat, right?
Beat cops, man, that's thing of the past.
Let me tell you the difference that makes versus how it is now. And I understand that people don't have the manpower. You don't have the. I get it, but I think that's one of those very vital things that needs to happen. Because if this police officer if his area is say where a whole bunch of people that's not like him is, right, but you never spend time with them, you don't talk to them, the only time you talk to them is when you're have to be
in negative context. That
by itself it opens doors to so many things because just culturally, black folks, we loud. You know, we get rowdy. We like to joke around or whatever. So like, you know, but if a beat cop is walking the street and he knows. He just running his mouth.
He does that every Thursday at 3:30.
You know what I mean? So as opposed to another officer coming in that has no clue, but sees that as aggression, right?
Wow.
It's easy to have a misconception of something when you don't spend time.
Yeah.
Just like how, and I'm doing the same thing my dad always did. Just like when you don't spend time in the Word, if you don't spend time building your relationship with God, you never feel like He's there for you, or you feel like He just I'm just here, or maybe He don't exist because you don't spend that time to get to know Him, to know what He's already done for you in this situation here. I think it's so important, man.
You raise that could be like a really serious point of discussion on trying to potentially remedy that part of this discussion, the whole police versus, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That's a fascinating point, because what that also does, and you kind of you alluded to this as well, it creates an intimate connection. If that B cop is walking that same, I have no idea how much territory they had back in the day. Right. But say they walked 10 square blocks, like that was their area.
Right.
Then they would develop a very intimate connection with that area. And then when something is popping off over here, then you have an advocate for the community within within that very crucial part of the community in the police force. You have a direct advocate, because that's his family. And if you think about how many movies could we list where you see that kind of environment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Guys, I promise you it's okay.
Yeah.
That's Johnny.
Right. Yeah.
Johnny just got off work, and on Thursdays he gets his paycheck. He has a few too many or whatever.
Right.
Or that's Jimmy. You know what? His dad got killed 3 years ago by an officer, guys. That's why you have that, whatever the case may be, that could really create an advocate for that individual community. And you and I are smart enough to know, you say that I understand budgets, this and that. Well, we know there's plenty of useless spending that we can redirect to remedy these issues. But again, that's a conversation for a different day. Right. I really like that you brought that up, because that kind of conversation, that kind of discussion could really do. We see the picture of the officer with all the toddlers running around, and brings them donuts and food every week or whatever, and sits and has that intimate connection. I think that's a part of the original inception of the idea of a police department that is lost. Mm-hmm. It really is.
I think it's important that they build a relationship with the kids too, as you just mentioned,
kids,
because as a kid in the 80s, when I saw a police officer, I didn't feel anything negative. I didn't feel afraid or whatever. Right. But as time went on, like even to this day, I'm driving. If a cop gets behind me, I feel like I have something that I feel, right? Even if I'm not doing anything wrong, I feel something. But if we can get back to that, but to make change, it can't just be the one side reaching out. Amen. The other side has to as well, and the people that the black folks, minorities, whomever that's wanting to be heard, that's wanting this change, have to be willing to meet them halfway. Yeah. If they say, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make an effort to build a relationship back with you, so we can, you know what I mean? Then you can't sit there and point your finger at them, or every time they may make a mistake, you go, see, blah blah blah, because we all make mistakes. We're still human, and so for change to happen, we have to agree. Okay, let's try this. Let's try it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to be willing to allow it to happen, to try it.
To believe in the sincerity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a really common human problem.
Yeah.
And especially in modern day, I experience it with myself, and and she's gonna watch this, but my Layla, Layla, she experiences migraines. Yeah. And so sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, need to do the dishes, but you got that migraine. You know what I mean? But that's a very small, very funny representation of that problem, though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that is believing that somebody's sincere, believing that, you know what, we want to do this, and we need to be able to on the as the reciprocating side to be able to say, all right, let's take that at face value. Mm-hmm. Now on the backside, may get burnt. Cross that bridge when it comes.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
That's a very crucial conversation to have as well, and a conversation that is going to inspire the things that need to be said, or the people that need to be heard to create, you know, this real change. You know, we know that this is a one bite at a time sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
Decades and centuries of deeply ingrained problems are not going to be remedied overnight. It will take yet another, you know, presumably, you know, decades or whatever. But you know, it's a conversation that we need to have. And
you know, if let's say what we had just talked about with the officers walking the beat, if Fort Wayne had, like, if we were already doing that, right, and the people knew that, hey, our office, our department, our police department, they're making an effort for things like that not to happen in Fort Wayne. I believe that when what happened to George Floyd happened, Fort Wayne would have showed out a little differently. We'd have been like, you know what, I that's not right. See what we're doing here. See that it's working.
They would have been arm in arm, so to speak, walking downtown.
And then instead of confrontation, we'd have been like, hey, we stand with you. We hope that our platform, what we're doing, will manifest itself over to you all, and you all can start rebuilding that thing too. But again, we got to start. We got to start somewhere. So I think it'd be a really good thing to do.
It's a conversation that if any of our leaders are watching, I would challenge you to consider the going back to the beat cop. I mean, that I just think about having that relationship again, and you know, if we can't go back to the proverbial beat cop that walks a 10-block radius, so to speak, how do we make a bridge to create a relationship between our protectors, who are supposed to be these people to serve and protect, and that community? How do we make it so that when such and such on this block are fighting with each other, you know, how do we create a means for somebody else to pick up the phone and say, hey, we need some help here? You know, without it turning into 17 cop cars, super loud, and get on your knees, and all that craziness. Yeah. Because I think that's where we're at. Really, is we've created just this environment where the officers perhaps are just simply viewed it's almost exclusively in this negative context.
Right.
I mean, whether it's as simple as I'm getting a $25 seatbelt ticket. Well, I guess are they still $25? I don't either. Or all the way to some huge.
Right.
It's all just this negative context.
Right.
And you know, we can shift that same conversation to your community, to the Black community, in regards to those same kind of generalizations.
Right.
Generalizing each other and putting all of these people in this one little compartment. I think it could be one of the bigger things holding us back in this conversation, as a grand scale. I don't know. All I do is I'm just the outside looking in, trying to have these conversations to better understand.
I think the adults, it's so important for us adults to show our kids the change that we want to make. So if the beat cop can't come back, the relationship has to come back. It has to come back, because if you don't have a relationship, then how we don't know each other. And if the only time I see you or you talk to me is when there's something bad happening, it's just not good business. You know what I mean? Like it's it's funny that I just said that, because it's like, where does that work in any business?
Right.
Where does that work in any business? Right? Sweetwater, amazing company. to work for. So from what I hear, like the communication is,
Sure, yeah.
you know what I mean. So it's like, why? What happened? You know, and I tip my hat off to the officers. They got a hard job. You know what I mean? But if we have that relationship, maybe it don't have to be so hard.
Yeah.
Because if this officer knows, you know what, I know everybody that lives on this block. You know what I mean? If something crazy or sideways happen, you know, maybe that officer feel like he didn't have to deal with this problem and everything back here.
Yeah.
And go, because good, again, I think there's more good people in the world than not.
Yeah, and I think we would see then this officer, and then we would see the community beginning to say, quit being stupid,
Yeah,
to each other,
right, and not allow certain things
certain things to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And then that tiny little seed, so to speak, is turned into a vine, and we begin to take that small bite
Mm-hmm.
out of the elephant,
Mm-hmm.
and we begin to see it kind of spread. You know what I mean? And you know, again, to anybody who might be watching, I want to just encourage you to begin having these conversations. You know, I'm nobody. I don't know the inner workings of all the political, figuring out how to get out of this mess. But even in just you and I, a couple laymen, so to speak, just having a conversation, we've had these incredible realizations, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, could turn into somebody having a conversation that brings the beat cop back. I don't know. I'm honed into that specifically. Just really is resonating with me on a means to begin to heal this wound instead of continuing to slap bandage after bandage.
Right. I would love to be able to sit down and talk with any of our police officers or chief or whomever.
Yeah.
I would love that, because those are the folks that we need to be talking to.
Yeah.
Those are the folks. If we're afraid of them, then we both need to come together and just talk.
Yeah.
Let's just talk. If I see you coming, I shouldn't feel fear or whatever. I should be like, hey, how you doing?
You should feel good about it.
Right.
You know
Like,
what
all
I
right.
mean?
All
Like,
right.
how many people, when they go to look at a house, they're driving through the neighborhood and they're like, oh, a couple officers live in the neighborhood. Awesome.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That should be
Mm-hmm.
the way that we feel.
Right. Exactly.
And you know, who again we could discuss for hours why it's gotten to that point. That's for people far better qualified than we are.
And really, it's irrelevant how it got there, because the point of it is it needs to be fixed.
It's how we fix it. Yeah.
So you know, because I think that's another problem. People stay in their past too long, and that's just a trick of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To kill, steal, and destroy. Anytime you try to do something good, he's right there to try to be like, but you remember what he did? Remember 3 months ago?
Yeah.
So we have to just stay diligent in our fight and our cause.
Yeah, willing to accept sincerity and accept
definitely
that somebody might really want to change like they say they do. And yeah. Well, I mean, throughout our conversation, have you thought of any questions we should talk about? Do you have any questions for me specifically? Anything you want to add?
Nothing that I think we hit on some pretty good ones there, and you know, the biggest thing I just take away from everything is I want people to know is we know where we are, right, with the situation. So how do we move forward? Let's move forward, and we can't move forward without communicating. We can't move forward without rebuilding relationships and rebuilding those burned bridges. Change won't happen otherwise, and we have to be open to allowing it to happen again. And as you said, if it falls through on the end, we tried, and then we try again.
Yeah.
We try again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because people aren't going to stop fighting for injustice, right? And as they shouldn't. So we keep trying. If people in charge are willing to take a stand and say, all right, let's do this, then we have to say, okay, let's try it.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And hold those that want to oppose it, hold them accountable.
Right.
Be like, so what are you doing? What's your solution? Because there's a lot of people that'll just turn a nose to every solution that you might want to do, but they don't have anything, or the things that they want to try realistically doesn't work. You know what I mean? You know, and that's the part of the conversation. Hearing that, okay, if we go and talk to them and say, well, we want to do A, B, C, and D, and they go, well, here's the problem. To do any of that, we need X, Y, and Z, and we just don't have the capabilities to get X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So now instead of saying, no, you just don't want to do it, because that happens every single day, you'll hear someone say, okay, well, this is what we would like to do, but we can't do it because of this. And then someone on the other side will say, no, you just don't want to do it because you don't like. No, how about, okay, well, if that can't happen, what can happen? How can we work with what we got? Because that's the only thing we can do. Work with what we got. What we got is each other. We're in this city together. We have to live. We have to work together, grow together. There's no time for, you know what I mean? We got kids that's growing up thinking that some of these things are okay, and it's not. So we adults have to come together and go, all right, let's see what we got. Let's make it work. So I think if we do that, that's a step.
Yeah.
And that's all in our lifetime. We can try to, if we can get a step forward in our life individually, who knows where we'll be.
Yeah.
When my kids are 70.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Wow. Well, there you go, guys. I'm gonna leave it at that. Very wise words, Orlando. I can't thank you enough for being willing to do this.
Yeah.
And guys, stay tuned. In the coming weeks, we're going to continue this conversation as long as the Spirit tells us to. I'm going to talk with Veronica, and you mentioned wanting to sit down with some of our law enforcement officers. I'm working on putting that together as well. Guys, I'm just trying to get as many people sitting and talking as possible. Orlando, again, I can't thank you enough.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
We've experienced a lot together, and I love you and yours as much as I love my own, and so I want to try and be an instrument. Any of you out there listening, if you have a voice, even if it's to one single person, use that voice. It takes somebody to decide today is when we start being different. That may be for you personally, that may be within your family, within your work. But if you're that example, if you consistently be that example and strive to be as good as you can be, it will infect those around you. So those of you who have a voice, use it. You'll see Orlando again here in the coming weeks as we continue this conversation. That's what this is, talking to real people with real hurt for real reasons, guys. And we all have a part in trying to figure that out. So stay tuned. We've been having a ton of fun. Been very eye-opening. Hope it's the same for you. We miss you. Can't wait to be in person, guys.
Right.
We love you. We'll see you soon.